Welcome back to the F1 2019 career mode here, guys, and I do apologise for the delay, but we are resuming here and hopefully going to be a bit more smoother with these uploads for the rest of the season. And we are coming in to the Canadian Grand Prix, one of my favourite tracks on the calendar, usually a good track for straight line speed and cars with good power. Now obviously with the Honda Toro Rosso we're not quite where I want to be yet, but it is season 1, and we have a long road ahead of us, and looking at it, it's going to be nice and bright, nice and sunny, or at least clear rather, I should say. Bit of cloud cover and then sun coming out at the end of the race, and then of course at the start of qualifying, so no wet weather shenanigans, and that should help us out because the AI they were manageable in the wet if you'd seen my race in Spain, but now they're pretty quick. Since recent patches. Let's look at the development. Ferrari now pulling ahead, and Red Bull have jumped ahead of Mercedes. They're now second fastest team behind Ferrari. Mercedes down to third place. Renault and Haas both looking very strong. We have very close to McLaren. Racing Point moved closer to Haas. So it's all shuffling around as we come into the European season. A lot more upgrades coming to the cars, and let's see how the performance fares as we move in to qualifying.
Hello and welcome from the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, home to the Canadian Grand Prix for today's qualifying session.
So we are coming up to the end of qualifying here. I believe this is just the end bit of my fastest lap. Valtteri Bottas on pole, 109.7. Delta's looking a lot better coming out the heavy. That time around we are charging down the back straight. It's only just over 3.5 minutes to go left in the session, and it's all about in this final sector attacking the chicane with as much momentum and force as possible. Big bit of curve on the inside. Try and make it as straight as possible. We did very, very well there. Charge toward the line as quick as we can, and it's P11. Much improved after it looked like where we were going to be. It's actually the fastest final sector. That's how well the chicane went. But that's the best we can manage. Let's get into Sunday.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to a variant of this track back in 1978. It was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. It's one of the fastest races of the season here at the circuit Gilles Villeneuve, with around 60% of this 2.7-mile circuit taken at full throttle. There are 14 corners to navigate, the very last of which has its very own infamous history. It could be the cause of a safety car today. Joining me for today's race once again is Anthony Davidson. Let's start with Racing Point. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
Well, the atmosphere within that team seems very positive at the moment. Everyone seems like they're in great spirits and having a lot of fun doing what they do, and that's definitely contributed to the performances we've seen.
It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Sebastian Vettel will start on pole. Fantastic qualifying from the multiple world champion, and Valtteri Bottas will line up alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Hamilton, Leclerc, Pierre Gasly, and Verstappen, Perez, Stroll, Grosjean, and Kevin Magnussen. Russell, Hülkenberg, Daniel Ricciardo, the captain, Raikkonen, Butler, Lucas Faber, and Alexander Albon. Norris and Robert Kubica takes the last spot on the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track.
So we dropped down a couple of positions, which isn't really the end of the world, but it definitely could have been better. That being said, P14 ahead of both our former F2 rivals in Lucas Weber and Devon Butler. Nothing too shabby. And faster than our teammate, of course. So realistically, that's what matters. Obviously, we start outside the top 10. That means we can start on a free choice of tyre. And I'm going to force myself on one-stop strategy. Mediums to the hards. It's probably not ideal, but this track is about straight line performance. Let's see how that factors in as we have 5 red lights for the Canadian Grand Prix. Lights are out and away we go. We responded to the lights absolutely superbly, but unfortunately no grip off the start line, and we've got Raikkonen down our inside. We narrowly missed Ricciardo, and Raikkonen goes for a dive bomb of absolute dreams, and George Russell has pinched me. I'd certainly had no purpose in parking my car there. On traction, we're going to try and get ahead of Hulkenberg, but we got pushed onto the curb and onto the grass, and that prevented me from pulling away, but we sent it back down the inside of the next right-hander, and we've been able to pull ahead of Nico Hulkenberg. So we're up into 13th place after dropping a position or two off the start line, and hopefully we can hang on to the back of George Russell. But that being said, of course, it is a Williams. It's not great in the corners, but it's an absolute rocket ship in a straight line. But when you've got cars in front of them squabbling, like we have, going into turn one, look at this. There's 5 cars jockeying for position. Russell trying to go around the outside. Oh, Raikkonen, there's a big lock-up. And to try and prevent any kind of calamities, I kind of went straight on a little bit, just watching where the other cars were more than focusing on my braking zone. And that might have cost me an attempt at either Russell or Raikkonen, as those two go side by side through the following chicane. Raikkonen remains ahead. We've actually got a sniff, but Russell tries it round the outside of the second chicane. This is where Vettel went off in the 2011 Grand Prix, handing the win to Jenson Button. And Russell tries to get it on traction. They're still side by side, heading through the second DRS zone, and neither of those cars have the DRS. We try and pull to the right-hand side, but Ricciardo tries to dive it down the inside. We leave him the space. Russell now on traction, tries to get him, heading down towards the hairpin before the big, long back straight into the final chicane, and Russell has indeed pulled ahead of Kimi Raikkonen, and whether that was down to his soft tyre being better than Raikkonen's at this stage of the Grand Prix. But of course Raikkonen now going to be in slipstream with DRS. We've got it as well, but I don't think we've unfortunately remained close enough to the Alpha, as Raikkonen breezes back past George Russell into the final chicane to retake 11th place. Russell down to 12th, and unfortunately during that whole adventure we remain P13. Ricciardo tried to have a pop but couldn't quite get it done. Can we get close enough to Russell in the braking zone of 1? We had a little look, but Russell cut across, and we weren't able to make anything of it there. But thankfully the 2 Haas cars and the Racing Point just up the road, not very quick, and if we remain close to these 2 guys, we could be within a shout of a points-paying position as we charge down towards turn 1. Look at it, there's a 5-car train in which they're being held up, and we've got a decent run on Russell. We're going to try and go round the outside of turn 2, and Russell pushes me onto the no contact, but I just ran out of road, and we went onto the curb and onto the grass, very similar to lap 1, where we weren't able to quite get the traction. And Russell defending there. He's so close to points in that Williams, and they would be so richly deserved. He's done very well in the Williams car, both in the real life Grand Prix and this virtual one. But look at it, it's a train headed up by Romain Grosjean, and there's Sergio Perez I think in there as well. It's definitely one of the Racing Point cars. We've not got a brilliant run out of the hairpin, and that's going to leave us susceptible. We've got no DRS. Nico Hulkenberg now in the Renault breezes past me in a straight line. We're going to duck into his slipstream. Ricciardo's going to have a little look into the chicane. Can he get the move done? He certainly tries it. He didn't really give me any choice. Had to cut across the second part of the chicane, but we kept the position. And the front guys, the top guys in the pits, Sebastian Vettel coming out on the soft tyre. He's going to feed him right into the heart. Oh no, just behind that train of traffic. Look at him side by side with George Russell. But Vettel's going to lead out into there. Hamilton just behind Ricciardo in P14, and we've carried so much momentum through the final chicane. We didn't quite get the exit how I wanted, but we're so much closer to Nico Hulkenberg than we were. Can we try and make a move into turn 1? We've braked so much later, but Hulkenberg, similar to Russell earlier in the Grand Prix, just swiped across me, and it proves to be you need to be a lot closer in this year's game to make a move into turn 1 at Canada, because the AI are absolutely just going to ruin you. But come lap 8, Hamilton has cleared Daniel Ricciardo, is now trying to make his way past me. Moves to the right-hand side. He hasn't got as much straight line speed in that Mercedes as I first thought, but yeah, he was down the inside of that corner, and I had to go very wide to avoid an accident. It would have been an illegal overtake, but of course Hamilton got his way through. We now defend from Daniel Ricciardo into the hairpin, trying not to hit the back of Lewis Hamilton. Don't want to be carrying any damage for the rest of this stint, but this one-stop strategy at the moment proving to be quite a concern. These guys' soft tyres haven't dropped off yet, and even though we got DRS, we have not got the pace in a straight line of Ricciardo, and that looks like Lucas Weber in my mirrors trying to make a move. We were 3 wide into the final chicane, and finally Hulkenberg makes a pit stop as well as Perez. So these guys will be coming in soon, the guys ahead, and we can try and stretch it. They will have to do 2 stops in this Grand Prix, whereas we are only doing the 1. Meanwhile, Hamilton battles George Russell, and myself and Russell going to probably go at it again soon in now a battle for 6th place rather than 12th. But here comes lap 9, and Bottas gets past me a lot easier than Hamilton does. Probably caught me on a better part of the track to be able to get through. But we're just saving a bit of fuel. You see we've got 1.2 laps available. Low ERS mode at the moment. Just conserving the car, conserving our fuel and the energy. And we've actually moved up to 5th position. Albon in the pits, as Jeff is telling me, and as you saw on the graphic. And just sort of seeing how it goes at the moment. This is the sort of stage of the Grand Prix where, look, tyres are in decent nick. Leclerc comes steaming past because, you know, I'm always struggling to boot out of that chicane. Never really been a good one in any kind of Formula 1 game for me. But this is the stage of the race where I just need to be consistent. These fast guys are going to be coming past me. I can't let them interrupt my progress. Just got to move as, you know, just keep it clean and as smooth as possible. Push this stint, and we've only got one pit stop to make. And Gasly's going to try and get me into the chicane at the end of the straight, and he just wasn't committed to the overtake, and unfortunately that has done what I said. It's cost me time, because I would have gone on a lot more naturally and taken a lot more curb on the right hand side, but no, that has cost me a little bit of time. And probably the senior Red Bull team probably not too happy with me, but Gasly needs to be more committed with his overtake, and he's still sitting behind me. He's going to have a go into this chicane here, and it's probably again just not the best place to pass it. Gasly really making a meal of this right now. He should be trying to get past me and chase after Charles Leclerc. He's probably going to get me on traction out of this chicane, because I've never been good here. I just don't pick up speed like the AI does. And he's going to have DRS. And you see Gasly goes past. Verstappen is there as well. Verstappen on the soft compound tyre, or sorry, on the medium, on a different strategy entirely to Gasly. And Gasly slowed him up in corner apex, and that allowed me to repass Verstappen on acceleration. And I don't know, like, Gasly is not doing a good job for his team. Now, I've just gone completely deep into the hairpin. That's probably going to mean Verstappen's going to get a good run on me. He's side by side at the moment with a Racing Point car of Sergio Perez, who's on the soft compound tyre, charging down the back straight. Perez is going to make a move ahead of both of us here. I'm in the slipstream. Can Verstappen make a move on me into the chicane? I could have come in. Verstappen tried to make a move. I was boxed in behind Perez and next to the Red Bull. Raikkonen has had a fantastic first stint. Has come in mediums. I don't know if he's going to go hards to the end of the Grand Prix. We could have come in at the end of that lap, but I'm extending this stint a little bit to spend less time on the hard compound tyre. Probably going to cost me later on, but not too concerned with it now, as Verstappen finally makes his move on me now that he's not being hampered by Pierre Gasly. He's now up into 7th place and can re-chase down the Racing Point as well as the Ferraris. And now Grosjean, remember Grosjean? He was heading that train at the start of the race. Well, he's now coming past me. He's made his first pit stop. He's got to make a second one, but Grosjean pulls through, and there is Lance Stroll. What can we do into the chicane? Can Stroll make his way through? No, Stroll didn't make the move through successfully. Grosjean has got DRS out of the chicane, so he is safe from potential retaliation. But we're now in the 17s, and now that we're getting overtaken by cars that we're going to be racing, because I'd hope to be racing Grosjean at the end of the race, and he too has one pit stop left to make. It's probably this phase of the Grand Prix where I should really consider coming in to make a pit stop, as we're going to see Stroll now on his fresher medium tyres and more powerful engine just push past us on the inside. Try and hold it round the outside. Very, I don't know, potentially questionable. I've not got a lot of speed out of the chicane. That's why Stroll has got past me, and Kevin Magnussen, who's on the soft tyre. Stroll has left the door very wide open. I've gone very late on the brakes, just about got the car turned in. Warning for a light love tap to Lance Stroll. Maybe a few more of them happening as we go onto the straight. But we've got Stroll on the right, Magnussen on the left. We're going to duck in for some slipstream behind the Racing Point car, but it's just not enough, unfortunately. We brake late. Oh my god! Nearly into the chicane. Once again, putting the front of my car maybe where I don't deserve it to be. But we nearly had contact with Stroll and Magnussen. And I'm more just being a nuisance at this point, because I need to be coming into the pits. And in fact, I'm going to come into the pits at the end of this lap to swap to the hard compound tyre. As you can see, we're on no ERS, lean fuel mixture. These guys are going to come through. I just need to make sure I don't hit them, which I was very close to doing using a bit of grass. But we're in for our one and only pit stop of the afternoon, going onto the hard compound tyre. Albon's going to come past me, and that's how you can tell that stint hasn't quite worked out the way I wanted it to, on the grounds that Albon was behind me before his pit stop, and he's now going to be way ahead of me. In fact, I'm coming out in P19, so
See these tyres through to the end now.
Not ideal. Ricardo was behind me at the phase of his first pit stop. He's now ahead of me, and if I'm considering racing guys like Grosjean, then I shouldn't be behind these guys. But personal best lap of the Grand Prix, on a 1:14.7. And we're pushing these hard tyres with our fuel and our ERS. 14.3 now. Only 5.3 behind Albon, as stated there, and I was just pushing. There's a yellow flag. Oh, Russell out of the Grand Prix. He'd had a brilliant showing for Williams. Looked like he might have been able to squeak a point in there, but more cars have made their pit stops. Look, Grosjean's made his second pit stop, and he's out behind me. So maybe, just maybe, this might work out. Albon's in, Norris is in, Ricciardo is in. So, end of lap 22. We've booted it out of the final chicane, and we find ourselves in 9th place. And you can see Raikkonen, who looks like he's definitely making 2 stops. He's got medium, started just behind me on the grid. He is just up the road. Look at Grosjean's straight line speed with the slipstream and the DRS. Perez has got the fastest lap of the Grand Prix now. Good stuff for the Racing Point driver. Grosjean's got himself all out of sorts through the chicane, but he's going to still have DRS due to the nature of the circuit, and I don't think we're going to be able to get past him. And now Magnussen is trying to get through around the outside of turn 1. We're going to squeeze him and make sure he can't make a move into turn 2, but Grosjean pulls ahead now, and this is where the hard tyre unfortunately drops off a little bit. Grosjean's ahead, Magnussen ahead. Can we make a move into the hairpin? It's a late ditch move. I've been very aggressive, getting my elbows out in this race, and Magnussen's been able to switch back underneath me, but who's going to get the DRS? Who had it at the detection point? Probably K-Mag, and unfortunately, yes, he does. We're going to duck into the slipstream, but there goes Nico Hülkenberg now, fighting for 10th place. Can the Renault pull a point out of this Grand Prix? Looks like Raikkonen and Magnussen locks up. We're trying and we're fighting through the final chicane. I was going to make a comment about Raikkonen coming into the pits, which he has done to fit a new tyre, and Hülkenberg trying to go around the outside. Magnussen's locked up into turn 1. We dive it back down the inside, and somehow, some way, came out of that still in 9th place. That was chaos. Those couple of corners were absolute chaos, but we've got roughly 10-ish laps to go, and Hülkenberg now, just look at the way he's driven completely around the outside of me on traction out of that chicane. It's just, I'm not good there. I'm on the hard tyre, and yeah, we're down to 10th, unfortunately, here at Canada. Can we cling on for one final championship point? Magnussen appears to have dropped back. I don't know if he's got any damage or what's happened to him, maybe in his tussle with myself and Hülkenberg, but he's now over 1.5 seconds behind and no DRS against me. So it might calm down from now till the end of the race. 9-ish laps to go, and we're going to fast forward now to the end of lap 30, and it looks to be that way. I'm in the 15s. Hülkenberg not too far ahead of me. He's trying to chase down Grosjean, but Stroll is now behind me, but he's 6 seconds back, and I think we're safe. We're going to come through. End of lap 35. Lewis Hamilton's won the Canadian Grand Prix. Surprise, surprise. He is a bit of a Canada specialist, but we're going to come through. And even though it didn't look like it, at certain points of the race, it's managed to work its way out, be it our aggressive driving, our strategy, our elbows, I don't know. But we've got a point. Not too shabby, in my personal opinion.
Okay, good job, mate. Really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
I can see the drivers starting to approach the podium for the victory celebrations. A real team victory today. Everybody played their part. Congratulations then to Mercedes, your race winners today.
So as stated, Lewis Hamilton has won the Canadian Grand Prix from Pierre Gasly getting that 2 stop to work. But look, Hamilton 3 stops and still 15 seconds ahead of his closest rival. And Bottas rounds off the podium for Mercedes, with Verstappen trying that 2 stop and getting to 4th. 3 stop didn't work for Ferrari. Leclerc even finishing ahead of Vettel, who was on pole as well, the only man into the 111s. So Vettel maybe had an issue during the race, but unbeknownst for sure. Sergio Perez ends up being best of the rest in 7th place. A nice comfortable 7th place. He was 21 seconds off the lead, and he was 22 seconds further down the road from Romain Grosjean there. So good race from Perez. Grosjean did okay in the Haas. Hülkenberg battled me for 9th, and then we come through, one of the few guys on a 1 stop for 10th place. So I'll take the point, considering we started 14th. Alex Albon came up from 18th to 13th But yeah, Russell unfortunately retired from that race. With that, Hamilton takes the lead of the Drivers' Championship, 112 points to Vettel's 101, so he leads by 1 point. But everyone down to Verstappen still within a race wins chance. We're up to 9th. We've overtaken Stroll. We have 24 points to his 23. So good progress for us in the drivers' standings. As we have a look in constructors, Haas have overtaken Renault with 31 to 30 points. We still sit on 26. So I really need, at some point, Alexander Albon to pull his finger out there, really. And McLaren, bottom of the pile. Even Williams have more points than them. But I'm sure McLaren will bounce back. And I'm sure Claire's got questions about our race.
Good day today. Let's have your take on it. That was a good race for Lucas. Are you pleased to see him doing well?
I mean, relatively, but you know, he's in a different team. It's difficult to comment on where he's at, really.
You really cut your way through the field today. What was your strategy?
One stop and being aggressive when I needed to be, as I knew we weren't the fastest car out there today. Yeah.
Things looked close between you and your rival for a bit, but you came out on top, didn't you?
No disrespect to Albon, but I would disagree. We weren't really in close proximity on the track, but he's good.
Do you have any comments about the collisions?
Friendly nudges. That's all it was. Nothing more to say.
Appreciate your time.
So we come out of Canada with 1,287 resource points. Now we've already got a couple of major upgrades on the car being worked on, that being of the powertrain and of the weight reduction. An area we could use some work in is aerodynamics, so we could go for a drag upgrade, and that will mean that we, you know, shave that extra tiny bit off in a straight line. So we'll do that. Hopefully that'll come in for France, because that's when those two major upgrades are coming in, and the car just needs to be a bit more pointy on the front ends. We're going to get a front downforce upgrade, especially in France as well. A lot of double apex corners, so let's hope we get this big upgrade package on the car for France, because that will really, like, aerodynamics wise, it'll put us ahead of McLaren and more in line with Haas. But as an overall package, that could be huge, and it'll put us up there with Renault, realistically, when you look at it on paper. So look at this, all of it coming in potentially for the French Grand Prix, so we could catapult ourselves to the 4th fastest team on the grid. Now, I'm not going to complain. Like that to me sounds pretty damn good. So, you know, we haven't done any department efficiency upgrades, so I'm inclined to believe 1 or 2 of these will fail. Hopefully just the minor ones. If we get both major packages in, that would still be superb. Like, we can still, that'll move us closer to Racing Point and further ahead of McLaren to be able to contest and contend for those points. Okay, so we're looking all right for the next round, which is in France. Probably not going to suit the car too much, and considering the new aero regulations, the cars are going to feel a bit strange going around there. This was also, this and France were still recorded on an old patch of the game, so it is still an old, like the old pit lane. Like, it's not on the newest patch. I haven't got the new France pit lane as of yet, which I'll probably explain again in, you know, the next episode. But from Austria onwards, we should be on the newest patch, is what I'll say. Or at least from Austria is when the game started getting patched. I don't think I've recorded a video on the newest patch yet. Anyway, doesn't matter. I'll leave you guys for the next episode. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a like if you did enjoy, and comment any feedback down below. Like I've said, next time out is the French Grand Prix, so we'll see how the car goes there. Last year's game, it was okay for me, but we'll see what is what. Click that subscribe button and enable the notifications to be kept up to date with the content that comes to the channel. And I will see you all next time.